Have you ever had plans that completely fell through, or have you ever struggled with accepting your circumstances after life takes an unexpected turn? I'm Stephen from Living Hope Family Church Marana, and this is something that God has been teaching me over the past few years. I'm 25 years old, and as long as I can remember, I've always been very focused on what should I do with my life? What is God's plan for me? And those are definitely crucial things for everyone to think about. But I've also been prone to a certain anxiety that can come with those types of questions. Anxiety about doing the wrong thing or feeling behind in life. And ultimately, that's just a result of me putting more faith in my own actions than in God, which is a recipe for anxiety. Philippians 4:6 teaches us to replace that anxiety with prayer, and the peace of God will guard our hearts and minds. And practicing this has been a long process for me, to say the least. And God has used this journey to teach me some very valuable lessons. One of those lessons I'm going to share with you right now, which is, put simply, don't get too attached to your plans. This is important for people of all ages, but I think it's especially important for young adults who are still figuring out what their lives are going to look like. That's because those years from roughly 17 to mid-20s are likely going to be the most transformative years of your life, which means those years are a hotspot for plans to fall apart. I'm a great example of that. A couple years ago, I would stress severely about what should I invest myself into and what is my life going to look like as I step into adulthood. But the truth is, back then, I wasn't even aware of the things that I'm prioritizing today. Right now, my priority is recording this video for my church, but I didn't even know this church existed a couple of years ago. But I was still stressing a couple of years ago. I've had a lot of my plans fall through, but I also have blessings today that I had no idea about before those plans ended. So why should I be so attached to those plans? Who you are, your opportunities, and your circumstances will evolve rapidly, especially in those crucial young adult years. Of course, we should make plans, but we need to be willing to accept God's plans instead of our own. His plans are much better, and when we let ourselves get too attached to our ideas of how things should go, it only creates more pain. There's probably no better example of this than the crucifixion itself. In Matthew 16, we see how Jesus began to explain to the disciples how he will die. Obviously, we know now that Jesus' death was precisely what brought our salvation. But because Peter didn't understand God's plan, in that moment where he saw what looked like everything falling apart, he became frenzied to the point of even resisting Jesus. It says, Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." And that is such a perfect way to put it. To get upset about God's plan is a merely human concern. We're relying on our own flawed and limited perspective. Peter was attached to his plan, so he couldn't see how what looks like the most ruthless loss a human could endure was actually the one thing that saved humanity. Then Jesus explains how we can get the right perspective when we get too caught up in those human concerns. In verse 24, it says, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it." To deny ourselves is to be willing to let go of our attachments, because even if we don't know God's plan, we do know that his plan is always better. Even if we really, really liked our plans. When it feels like everything is falling apart, opening ourselves up to God's plan can feel like settling for plan B. But remember that it was always God's plan A. Let me leave you with Proverbs 19:21. "Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand."